we are going on the men's side, ATP, and one of the matches that one of our friends is asking us if we have an opinion on that. I was checking also that match myself because I know that we talked about these two guys very, very much during the last weeks. Rublev versus Kyrgios. I think that it will be. I don't know if at least I think that if Kyrgios will enter and will be in the mood to play, because this is when you have Kyrgios in a match, he needs to be in the mood to play to expect something from him. So I think that it will be a long match, probably a nice five-setter if the fitness will be on both players. So what do you think, Snize? Do you think that? Kyrgios will be in the mood to play Rublev in this match? Do you think that Rublev will continue his brilliant performance at the U.S. Open?
Yeah, this is a very, very exciting match, and really just one of those, popcorn matches, as they call them. Bring the popcorn out and just sit back and enjoy. Andrei Rublev has long been one of the most talented juniors on tour, and he won the Next Gen Finals in its first edition in 2017. So he's always had a talent, but he's just been plagued by back injuries and really hasn't gotten going. But now he has, though, and obviously took a very impressive win versus Stefanos Tsitsipas in the first round, and emerging as one of the dark horses here to take this quarter. Nick Kyrgios, on the other hand, famously obviously got fined 110,000 US dollars. That's more than a tenth of his yearly earnings for an extreme outburst at the referee, at the umpire, Fergus Murphy, calling him a potato, spitting on him, berating him for the entire match, pretty much.
Excuse
so yeah,
me,
it's gonna be a
excuse
great.
me. Sorry to interrupt you, but I think that a fine is not enough for what he did against that referee, how he talked and how he reacted. I think a fine is not enough, and the ATP should take bigger measurements. I think that measures. I think that he should be banned at least for 6 months because he's always doing that. I'm not saying that he's not a great player to watch. I'm not saying that he doesn't bring in some excitement in the ATP tour. But enough is enough. What you are doing and how you're treating people on court, and most of all the referees. We know what Serena did last year on the U.S. Open finals. I think that it was also enough there. But after that, she will say, "Oh, but I'm a woman. I have rights." But look what is happening also with Kyrgios. I think that a 6 month ban should at least a 6 month ban for what he did. You don't agree with that?
Yeah, I definitely think that he should have been banned. It's long overdue. I mean, he's had his fits. He creates arguments out of thin air. The reason he lost his bananas in this match was actually he got no, he didn't even get a time violation. He was just annoyed because he felt that the umpire was starting the serve clock too early when he was going to serve, and he hadn't even gotten a time violation for it. But he's like, no, the umpire has started the clock too early, and then he went on about it for the entire match. And it's obviously not the first time he's been ejected from matches for throwing shares in Rome. He keeps just
Yeah, that too.
doing he just keeps going on, and obviously right now though he's actually in some pretty serious trouble though, because he's been going out on air and calling the ATP corrupt, and they're actually
Yes,
investigating
exactly.
him now for real. So I think that right now Kyrgios will be in his best interest to just focus on the tennis, which I think he has done this week. I think he's feeling the pressure. He went on media with an apology. The highly lucrative Laver Cup is coming up for the ATP, where Kyrgios is going to be participating. So I think that's a reason why the ATP Tour might be hesitating to suspend him, which I think is wrong, obviously. But he brings a lot of money to the sport. That's undeniable. But yeah, Kyrgios has looked scarily good, incredibly hard to break down on serve. But I think that Rublev is just so ultra consistent from the baseline. He has a rocket of a forehand comparable to Juan Martin del Potro pre all the wrist injuries. And he's just playing full of confidence. Tsitsipas is another player that has a big serve. He took him down in 4 sets, and I definitely not advising anyone to go against backing Rublev at a nice price here, because if Kyrgios isn't locked in, he'll lose the match. That's a guarantee, pretty much. And at this price, I think it's a little bit big. So yeah.
I think,
I think
Alex,
that
I would agree with
how
you. I would say the overline
sorry,
makes a lot of sense.
sorry,
I would say the
James,
overbet makes a lot of sense.
I think that the ATP is corrupt because they are not suspending Kyrgios, not corrupt from any other point of view. This is because he brings money to the tour. That is stupid. You know, other players are bringing money to the tour. Anyway, that's not the discussion here. James, you always love the underdogs. You love to play the big prices. Do you fancy Rublev in this one?
So, I mean, I think Rublev is not what I would consider a big price. 2.5, I would probably say is about right. I don't think that I would expect him to beat Kyrgios. I think maybe 50-50 on a good day, but I would be more inclined by the bet you suggested, which is the overbet. I think the overbet will be very likely a good bet. I've not actually checked the line for that quite yet. But that's likely to be a good bet. Or the first set tiebreak if you can get over, say, 3.25, although that seems unlikely.
Yeah, it's for unders over games right now. The line, a good line, is at 39.5 games at 1.8 with Bet365. So if we see 4 sets and 1 tiebreak in between them, I think that that is a very good bet. And also in number of sets, that is small, is 1.5 over 3.5 sets. But for example, over 4.5 sets is at 3.25. You know, and in the first set, you can take over 10.5 games at 2.32. So that's a nice line too.
7-6 first set score any player if you have Bet365. That's available at 350. I'd go ahead and take that. That is a fantastic bet. Both players have amazing serves. Kyrgios doesn't really invest a lot of energy on return, breaks less than 10% of the time, has a monstrous serve himself. Very, very likely to say first set tiebreak, so that's a great price.
Medvedev, Daniil Medvedev, our Russian guy with the most victories this season. On fire. He lost 1 set against Delien, but that is not a problem in my opinion. Meeting Feliciano Lopez right now, huge favorite Medvedev, 1.38, 1.4, depending on the bookies you're betting with. I think that he should clearly advance from this one. What a luck from Nadal. Nadal, not only that his quarter and his half of the draw is very, very nice, made for him, but also players are withdrawing and he doesn't even need to play. So here he is after 4 days without playing, meeting tomorrow. Who is playing against Chung? Chung, whatever, who played the 5 sets in the round 2. James, I think that it will be a clear victory for Nadal, right?
Yeah, I don't think Chung's likely to threaten Nadal. It's difficult because Chung is the kind of player, he actually had a very good match against Nadal in the past. I remember watching it, can't remember exactly where, but he is exactly the kind of player that could really threaten Nadal on his day because he's a very aggressive baseliner and he can really take time away from Nadal, and that's how you beat Nadal basically. But he's obviously been injury stricken for a long time now, really not able to maintain his level. Came back from 2 sets down against Verdasco yesterday, and he was just frankly quite lucky to win that match. I mean, Verdasco went a little bit AWOL mentally, I think. And yeah, I would definitely be expecting the more rested Nadal to have a fairly easy time of that match.
Yeah, we have some great matches also here on the boys' men's part. We have Isner Cilic. I think that should be an interesting match to watch. We have Zverev Bedene. One player that's nice loves Berrettini playing tomorrow Popirin. Monfils Shapovalov. This is a great matchup. Should be very interesting. So, what are your best bets, Snize, for this third round?
Yes, just gonna have to agree with what we've just broken down here on the Rublev Kyrgios match. I'm gonna have to go ahead and strike on that over, making it a 2-unit play over 39.5 games at 180 from Bet365. I think that is a great line. It looks very, very likely to hit. I think we see 4 sets minimum, long sets at that. So I'm going ahead and hit that. The other 2 matches I've had my eyes on here is the one you just mentioned. It's John Isner, Big John Isner versus Marin Cilic. So it's a matchup between 2 very, very out of form players that are currently playing far below their best tennis. So that always complicates things a little bit. But it's Cilic that's always had the upper hand in this particular head-to-head matchup. He leads 9-3. So he's won 9 out of 12 games that these pair have played. And I don't think that Isner has been great since returning from a stress fracture in his foot. He got earlier in this spring. I think that had Struff been a bit more clinical in the key moments, he was up a mini break in both tie breaks, if I remember correctly. But he went mentally AWOL and just couldn't control it, and just couldn't, as usual with Struff, couldn't take advantage. I think that he could have gone out there. Cilic wasn't playing as his best himself versus Stebe, but he improved as the match went on. And despite this being Isner's home major, he's never been past the quarterfinal, and he's lost in the third round a whopping 5 times of the last 7 occasions. So a bit of a boogie round here for Isner. Usually gets sent packing in this third round in particular. The whole break stats are quite similar, but Cilic is a full 100 points better in the hardcourt ELO ratings, and I do like the Croat to come out on top in this one. I think he has a better baseline game than Isner with a comparable serve, and that goes a long way in these big hitting matchups. So I got him at 1.85 to win. So that's my first bet.
Okay.
The second match I've looked at is Gael Monfils versus Denis Shapovalov. How do you pronounce it?
Shapovalov.
I think, yeah, Shapovalov. So Denis Shapovalov, he's certainly been improving by leaps and bounds, really. He's always had the talent. He had a great breakthrough in Toronto, I think, in 2017, where he beat a bunch of top 10 players to reach the semifinals there. But he's just been so ultra inconsistent. He can just go AWOL. His return game can badly misfire. He can hit unforced errors for days. But he's hired a new coach and a US Open specialist at that, Mikhail Yozhny, who usually found his best tennis at this very major. And he's looked much, much improved since. He's been able to reel in his unforced errors, play with bigger margins, control his aggression, and go for the big shots at the right moment. So he's been very impressive with this last week or so. And he's played really well here. But Gael Monfils is one of the most talented men in the entire game. And when he's not injured, and when he's focused, and when he's playing at peak level, which he seems close to be doing right now, he's in a much higher class than Shapovalov, quite frankly. When he's at his best, he's definitely a fringe top 10 player, if even top 10 player. He's ahead a good 10% in the whole break stats and 90 points in the ELO. He's a former semifinalist here. He's had a very easy time in his first 2 matches. And I think he should be the clear favorite to me. And I got him at 1.92. The market is probably going to move him down more towards the favorite range there. So I have to take him at his favorite price.
Yeah, do you remember Michael Yuzhny? Mikhail Yuzhny with the rocket that he was doing this sign every time he was winning the match. I don't know if you guys remember him. I remember him very, very good.
That's a good
Do you
place.
think, James?
Sorry, James. What did you ask?
I was just, which ELO are you using? Is it one you've made yourself, or is it from a site?
No, I'm using it from a Tennis Abstract, a very good tennis database. So this is surface-specific ELO ratings, so they match it up there. Yeah. And he's on the hard court, then he's 90 points ahead.
Yeah, I've tried doing them before. It's hard to make one that's much more I suppose, accurate and predictive than the Tennis Abstract one. But I can never figure out what their K value is. It's hard to figure out exactly what they're using to get the specific ELO. But anyway, sorry, yeah.
Do you think that the brain is the French brain is with Monfils this week? Because last week Wellcapper mentioned that they have one brain and they are sharing the brain. You know, maybe Monfils has the brain this week.
Yeah, I mean, I think Monfils is generally a bit better in slams, if nothing else. But yeah, you never really know where he's going.
So, what are your best bets for on the men's part for round 3, James?
Okay, so I think the one that I sent in the article, which I think is a very good bet if you can still get the prices that were there, is the Schwartzman is in the Schwartzman Sangren match, is on under 8.5 and under 9.5 games at 4.6 and 2.33 respectively. So there's a few things here. Schwartzman, the most return-orientated player on tour. He's won the third most return games in 2019 behind Novak and Rafa, and in 2018 he won the second most return games on tour, only behind Rafa, with Novak third, which is unusual. And the US Open has been playing slower and slower the past few years. This year, so far, again, very slow. I think it's about 3% fewer holds than the tour average on hard courts. So that's quite a significant factor as well. But of course, the main thing, as I say, is just Schwartzman. The under 9.5 games bet has landed in 56% of his sets this year, and also in 64% of his matches over the I think as a favorite over the past year on hard courts. So it's very much one of those situations where we're getting odds against on a bet that has landed consistently at least 55 to 60% of the time. So I think that's a very, very easy bet. And then the under 8.5 games has come in, I think, something more like a third, and we can get 4.6. So again, very, very big prices on something that has consistently been happening a lot over Schwartzman's career. Sangren, not the best player for it because he's 6'2" and serve orientated. He holds about 2% more than the tour average and breaks 2% less. But that tends to not be that big of a deal for Schwartzman. He can still, if he's able to get his racket on the ball and get it in play, he can still often grind down the big servers very quickly and make them feel like they don't know what they're going to do. So yeah, I took under 8.5 and under 9.5 games in Schwartzman against Sangren. And then I think also it's interesting you mentioned the Lopez Medvedev match. I think I'm not that concerned about him dropping a set to Delian on principle, but he was clearly exhausted in that match, and he said afterwards that he was amazed he was even able to move during parts of it. So the big problem I have with Medvedev now, and we've been saying this for weeks, is he's surely going to get tired soon. He may well come out fresh and feel fine against Lopez, but I would be getting increasingly worried about how he's going to hold up in these conditions, especially the hot, humid conditions, slow conditions. He's going to have to slug it out increasingly. Lopez was very, very good last round, and in the first round, he's been very good this week. And in general, to be honest, when I've seen him this year, he's been pretty competitive. So I'm not too inclined to get involved there. I think the price on Medvedev definitely feels too long. I agree when you first look at it. But I think the fitness concerns are becoming a bit more real now. So yeah, I just thought I'd comment on that match. I'd probably leave that one alone personally. And then the final bet that I'll take is in the Rublev Kyrgios match. Snize took the over bet, so I'll take the first set tiebreak at 3.5 because I think that's a nice price. Anything over 3, I think you're getting clear value.
Also, would you play over 39.5 games in a Medvedev's game at 2.05?
If it's difficult, I probably would expect that, but I think the problem is I'm not sure what's happening with Medvedev. If he's just not fit, he could easily lose that in straight sets. I mean, I don't expect that at all, obviously. But when you're looking at overbets, I feel like I'm not that keen on matches where fatigue is a big element. But yeah, that's a difficult one. I think I would expect that line as long as they both play, as long as they're both not injured or anything or pull out. So yeah.
Yeah, OJ Johnson is saying, good point, James. Medvedev went deep in 3 straight tournaments prior to the US Open. Surely fatigue will catch up on him, and he's also worried about Djokovic and that shoulder holding up. I still think that Djokovic makes it to the final with Nadal there. And if Nadal will play very good, I think that Nadal might have a chance in that final against Djokovic.